Hello, and welcome back to another episode of My Damn Opinion. Today's episode is once again a continuation of my proposed DC Cinematic Universe. Check out the playlist, link below. Today's movie pitch will focus on a solo Green Arrow film. Before we get started, hit that like button. Did you do it? Yeah, you did it. Let's get into it. The movie opens at night with a gang of criminals on the run from a mysterious pursuer. The group are a part of a new criminal empire that has taken up residency in Star City, pushing a new drug called Vertigo. As the hooded figure gets closer to the criminals, he draws back his bow and shoots arrows at these criminals. Then we cut to 5 years ago. Oliver Queen is a young bachelor, billionaire playboy, partying and being reckless. After a huge public embarrassment to the Queen name, Oliver's father takes him on a boat trip to help sober him up and hopefully teach him some life lessons to help him grow up. While on the boat, they are attacked by pirates who take them as prisoners and maroon them on the island of Lianyu. In the present, the drug dealers awaken tied up in a grungy abandoned warehouse where the Green Arrow interrogates them about the drug Vertigo, the supplier and next shipment, and their distribution plans. After getting some answers, the Green Arrow puts an arrow into each of them. On the island, Oliver, along with his father, the crew of the boat, and other prisoners taken by the pirates, are forced to harvest a rare plant native to the island for the pirates' leader, Kyle Magnor, the man in charge with hints of his connection to the Ninth Circle. Among the other prisoners are a young woman named Shadow and Werner Zeidel. In the present, Detective Jim Cameron of the SCPD arrives at the crime scene of the interrogation. One of the criminals is actually still alive and is rushed to a hospital. There, Jim Cameron questions him and is told about the hooded man with the bow, not being the first time Jim has heard about this boogeyman. On the island, Oliver grows close with Shadow and Werner, and we learn that Werner is a count in his home country of Valadova. We briefly go through a couple of years on the island and see Shadow and Oliver bonding. We see Werner meeting with Kyle Magnor about using the plant to improve on the drug, hoping to buy into his graces. During the night, the prisoners plot a mutiny against Kyle and his crew. Werner has second thoughts and rats on the prisoners. To make an example out of them, Oliver's father is executed and Werner joins the criminal. Plans for the mutiny continue and the prisoners craft weapons in secret, including bows and arrows. During some of the bonding between Oliver and Shadow, while they're crafting weapons, we learn that Oliver took archery lessons as a kid. Oliver and Shadow make love the night before the planned mutiny. Things set in motion the next day on the island for the mutiny. In the present, the Green Arrow arrives at a shipyard during the night. A group of black SUVs pull up. Curtis Knox steps out of one and greets a man wearing a cape and hood, the notorious Count Vertigo. While Curtis Knox exchanges a case of money for a shipment of the drug Vertigo, Green Arrow intervenes during the exchange. The next night on the island, Shadow gifts Oliver with a makeshift green hooded costume to help him blend in with his surroundings. The prisoners fight back against their captors with an epic firefight breaking out. Gunfire, spears, arrows blasting back and forth. During the fight, Werner gets a hold of Shadow and threatens her life, with Oliver shooting an arrow that causes an explosion, seemingly killing Werner. Oliver and the other captives are rescued by a passing boat that sees the fire raging from the mutiny. Back in the present, Green Arrow fights with Count Vertigo's and Curtis Knox's men, with a familiar face being Curtis's right hand, Shadow. The SCPD show up while Curtis Knox and his men escape. Count Vertigo makes an escape too. Green Arrow gets injured during the fight and is chased by the SCPD and Jim Cameron. Green Arrow gets himself trapped and realizes he's running out of arrows when he is rescued by a mysterious person who is revealed to be Shadow. She takes Oliver to safety where we learn briefly what happened to her after the island, returning home and the hardship that followed that led her down a dark path and finding out how deep the Ninth Circle really runs. She found safety with crime lord Curtis Knox. She says she recognized Oliver as a Green Arrow and warns him to let the Vertigo business go. He explains he can't, that his father died over these drugs, and that they run rampant through his city. She warns him to be careful because his demons will haunt him, and his need for vengeance will consume him like all men. Oliver says he's going to find and stop Count Vertigo from completely consuming his city. Shadow gives him the location of Count Vertigo's base of operations and cautions Oliver one more time to be careful with his choice. Green Arrow sneaks his way around the compound, taking out the guards one by one. Once inside, he's ambushed by more men and defeats them before being sprayed with the Vertigo drug, and a fight with the Count breaks out between the two. During the fight, Oliver's identity is revealed to Count Vertigo, who in turn reveals himself as Warner's idol, leaving Oliver confused. Vertigo explains that on the island, the explosion Oliver caused made Warner suffer a head trauma, giving him a constant feeling of vertigo. However, his drug, which causes a vertigo effect on others, gives him equilibrium. He tried to return home to his family and wealth after the island, but when he did, he had nothing waiting for him. He blames Oliver for staging the coup and keeping him on the island longer than he needed to be. Thinking Oliver dead, he thought revenge in another way, taking his vertigo drug to plague Oliver's beloved Star City. Oliver tells him he made his choices when he sided with Kyle Magnor and has no one to blame but himself. Furious, Vertigo unleashes more of his drug as Oliver shoots a flashbang arrow, causing Count Vertigo to go unstable. Oliver pins him down with 2 more arrows and draws back a third to kill him, but stops himself last minute. Oliver talks about revenge and how consuming it is before leaving. Shortly after, the SCPD show up and arrest Warner. Oliver narrates how he doesn't want to turn out like Warner and can't keep living in the past, and tries to take accountability instead, wanting to help the city in a better way. And the movie ends with Oliver returning from the dead publicly after 5 long years. In a mid-credit scene, we see Shadow meeting with Vertigo in prison, offering him another chance at revenge. In a post-credit scene, a mysterious group of masked individuals discuss how the Count has failed them and the new problem of the Green Arrow as we zoom out and see the 9th Circle logo. So the theme of this movie is guilt, revenge, and accountability. Oliver feels guilt over what happened to his father and the events on the island and tries avenging them through killing criminals in Star City. Vertigo becomes completely consumed by his need for revenge. The two characters almost being 2 sides of the same coin, with Oliver kind of coming to a realization that there are better ways to get justice than revenge. Tonally, I would go for a much grittier vibe akin to Netflix's Daredevil, with Oliver's arc being influenced by T'Challa's in Civil War. But, as always, that's just my damn opinion on how I would do a solo Green Arrow film. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on my Green Arrow film, how you would approach one, and what film you would like to see next. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, click that sub button, and hit that bell for more movie pitches no one asked for. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.